It's typically the lessons that are painful, the ones that change us and mold us and shape us into becoming better.
What's one mistake that you have made that you look back and say, oh, why did I do that?
There was one situation that to this day, still causes me heartburn. I think there's a major screw up here. It's California Highway Patrol is the enforcement agency. So they sent like the most macho guys ever, right? There's like 6 of these guys.
What's the biggest mistake that you see a business owner make when it comes to their finances?
I would say like building a house, the biggest mistake that I see is that the groundwork is not there. Half of building a house is under the dirt. I've got a lot of money in a safe deposit box. I can't get access to it. He goes, the franchise tax board, they've seized and frozen my assets.
What's something that you worry about? What's something that keeps you up at night?
Did I miss anything on this client? Or did I give them the best advice? Did I mess up on this tax return?
Welcome to Doing Business in the Inland Empire, where opportunity meets action in one of Southern California's fastest growing regions. I am John Heaton with Heaton & Associates Insurance Services, and in every episode, we dive into strategies, stories, and real-world lessons from entrepreneurs, innovators, and the community leaders driving the Inland Empire forward. All right, Andy, here I'm sitting with Andy Gardner from Gardner's Tax Service out of Beaumont. Thanks for coming.
Pleasure to be here.
So Andy, just to get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? Tell us about how you got started in the accounting world. Andy's a world famous accountant here in Beaumont. Just tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I grew up in Banning, so I'm local. My office is in Beaumont now. And in fact, my first job was here at Sunset Auto Plaza, which is now Diamond Valley Chevrolet down the road there. My dad was a tax preparer. Growing up. And so like many young people, not knowing kind of what path to choose in terms of career, I always had sort of a desire to be in law enforcement or a firefighter growing up, things like that. But then when I was 19 years old, I left and I went overseas for a couple of years, for 2 years on a mission trip for my church. And then getting back as a 21-year-old, it was time to get serious about things. And so just as a temporary job solution, I called my dad and I said, hey, listen, I'm home from my mission trip and I need to earn some money. Would it be okay if I came and worked in your office for tax season? I got back in August and tax season was right around the corner. I'd never done a tax return before. I didn't know really what it even was.
How old were you?
I was 21.
21.
Yeah, so just back from a mission trip overseas. So he said, sure, come on board. He said, we'll get you preparing simple tax returns and things like that. And so he put me through one of those H&R Block tax preparation courses that you see on TV. Come on down. And what's interesting, though, is so the timeline here is somewhat important. So I had gotten home in August. And this H&R Block course, remember, tax season, as everybody knows, is like January to April 15th. So from August, I never knew anything. I had never prepared a tax return. It was all foreign concept to me. And I had already because I had been gone for 2 years overseas. So some friends and I had already planned several trips. We had gone on like a cruise and we had taken a couple. So I told the H&R Block folks, I'm like, hey, listen, I know that this is a short little tax course, but by the way, I already have some trips planned, right? So I leave for a couple of weeks right in the middle of the H&R Block course. And I come back and it's time to take like the final exam from H&R Block. And their shtick at H&R Block is basically they want to put people through their course and then offer them a seasonal job at H&R Block. So we come back from our little trip with friends and take the final exam, and I totally bombed, right? I didn't know. I had been gone for the last 2 weeks. I didn't know what content they had covered or anything like that. Bombed the thing. And so out of this H&R Block course, I was the one guy that didn't get a job offer from H&R Block. In fact, the lady was so bothered by my behavior, by leaving right in the middle of this course and not taking it seriously, she made it a point to tell the whole class, she's like, we want to let you guys know that you're all offered a job except for Andrew. And everyone giggled and laughed and things like that. And even I got a kick out of it. So that was my experience going into tax season. Yeah. Like many people, I'm more of an on-hands learner and things like that. And so anyways, tax season comes and goes. My dad kind of rolled his eyes. He said, don't worry, we'll give you super simple tax returns to prepare. And from there, actually doing it, it's mostly my love for people. Grew. My kids will sometimes ask me, they'll say something like, Dad, you must be really good at math. So we've now been doing it for 22 years or so. 22 years. And they'll say, you must be really good at math. And I'll say, well, not really. Taxes has something to do with simple math, but really it's rules. And so taxes is not so much about math. That would be more like an engineering or chemistry. Those guys deal with math and medicines and things like that. But we deal with rules. in the tax world. And so it's basically Congress passes laws and there are rules implemented to enforce those laws, and there are revenue codes and things like that. And so really the idea is, how can you take a rule that exists and fit it to the need of an individual, company, or family? And so we've become somewhat adept and good at applying rules.
So how often do you see those rules change? I mean, as we deal with different presidencies and different political ideas, and so how often do those things change?
Yeah, good question. So they change regularly. Typically, you know about them in advance, though. So we've had some big ones recently, right? Right now, we're literally sitting on the OBBBA, right? The one big beautiful bill.
And he had to name it that.
Had to, right? It was either that or Trump is number one tax plan or something like that. So we're sitting on one now, but the last one happened years back, and we kind of knew what was going to be in that bill. And then over the last couple of years, we knew when certain things, certain tax patches were going to sunset, things like that. Okay. So we can typically see in advance the big ones that are coming up. And then once in a while, President Trump gets into office and just kind of shifts everything. And so there'll be some interesting changes in a few months.
Well, I want to dive into those a little bit. We'll talk about that in a minute. One thing you brought up, you talked about your mission trip.
Yeah.
And I love that you brought that up. I did that too. How did that influence you and maybe getting into the career that you're in now?
I think it has everything to do with why I've stayed doing taxes. You recall, it was sort of a temporary job solution, right? Sure. When I went to work with my dad. But I fell in love with what I had already been doing on the mission, which is connecting with people. If somebody says, hey, do you love your job? I do. I don't love taxes, and I don't love some of the conflict that comes up, as we're dealing with IRS and things like that in defense of clients. We do it because it's part of our job. I don't love that part of it, but there's a way to navigate that appropriately. But what I do love is I love people. And so on my mission trip, I just fell in love with people, being able to look at somebody and seeing more than just what you see on the outside, right? As you ask questions and as you probe a little bit and you're sincere and authentic, you start to love them, no matter what their background or circumstances, and you just have a natural desire to help them. So on my mission trip, we help them by teaching them principles of truth and light, and our focus was the gospel of Jesus Christ. But even if they didn't have a Christian background, we still were able to help them by just teaching them good principles about their life and about their families. Now we get to do effectively the same thing. Yeah. In fact, I would say if somebody asks me, hey, are you a tax office? If it was a one-on-one situation, I'd say, no, we're not a tax office and we're not an accounting firm. We're in the business of helping people. And sometimes we do that by helping them with their accounting or tax problems.
Well, I've known you for a while, and I love that you answered it that way, because that's how I would have answered it for you, because you were really good at dealing with people, understanding their problems, understanding and helping them find solutions. You're really, really good at that. My kids love you. All my kids have an Andy Gardner story about either a talk you gave at church or an experience that they had with you, and you're really, really good at connecting with people. So I can totally understand that. What point did you decide to open up an office, and then why Beaumont?
Okay, good. Yeah, another good question. Yeah. So, and it goes back. I'm glad that we've kind of gone in sequential order here, because you recall my dad's thing was just a temporary deal, right?
Right.
And then I was going to find out what I was going to do. I was going to be a teacher, or I was going to be a firefighter or a policeman. Well, after that first tax season, I was engaged at this point. So I got home in August, met my wife in January, and then we were married the following August. So everything's happening fast, right? Yep. Everything's happening fast. So I'm dating Yolanda seriously at this point, even though it's only been a handful of months here since I've been home from my mission trip. And I've just worked my first season with my dad in his tax office, but it was temporary. He had a small tax office, and he didn't really need somebody to stick around full time.
Sure.
So he was like, hey, come back next tax season if you want to, or if you decide to do something else, it's no skin off my teeth there. Just do what you got to do. So I'm looking at Yolanda. I'm like, what are we going to do? We're going to get married here in a couple of months, and I need a job. And so I went to my dad at that point, and I said, hey, listen, I've got some ideas for maybe expanding what you have going on here. He's pretty old school. He's got a great personality, and he connects with people much better than I do. And he's just great. But my job there was seasonal. So at that point, Yolanda and I had to sit down, and we said, listen, we're going to have to figure something out. But I started to fall in love with kind of this work.
Sure.
taxes is really, it's like a puzzle, right? And every puzzle has a good solution. And so I fell in love with that. So Yolanda and I looked at each other and said, hey, we got to do something here. So let's start small and let's branch out. And there's a fun kind of progression that happened after that.
So as you were starting, or maybe even now, what's one mistake that you've made that you look back and say, oh, why did I do that?
Well, I can tell you anecdotally, there was kind of a big one. I mean, I can count on like one hand the really boneheaded mistakes that I've made. It happens, right? Nobody's perfect, but we like to think that we're very careful, particularly as it relates to clients. But there was one situation that to this day, I mean, still causes me heartburn. Like I still know where these clients live in Redlands, and every time I drive down the freeway and I pass them, like I still to this day think about like what a screw up it was. So it was a group, it was a couple, it was a man and a wife, and it was more advantageous for them to file separate. And I had worked this file a number of different ways. There was businesses and rentals involved and things like that. So there's a lot of moving parts in this.
Yeah.
So I had gone above and beyond to just try to figure out which was the most advantageous current and then long-term situation for them. And so we decided to file separately, Mary filing separately. And I spent hours on this file, right? I sent it over to them for signatures. They signed it. Fast forward now, like a year down the road, 10, 11 months down the road, and I get a call from a lender. And this lender said, I mean, it was just he and I, and he was very kind. And he goes, hey, I think that there's a mistake on these tax returns that we're processing. They're getting ready to go to underwriting, but I think there's a major screw up here. I'm like, oh no, what happened? And he goes, I think all of her income is on his tax return and all of his is on hers. And it's such an easy, because really it's just the front page of the 1040 that's messed up, right? You've got the wrong person on there. All the work was perfect, but it was hooked up to the wrong social, which is causing all kinds of conflict. And so I had to call them, and it was a huge mess, right? Because it's delaying the loan process, which is now costing them money. And I just looked at them and said, I'm so sorry. What do I need to do to make this right? And it wasn't a cheap mistake, but we're grateful to have that fixed.
So what do you learn from those? When you make mistakes like that, it's some business owners, they say, okay, I'm done. I can't. How do you move forward when you make a mistake like that haunts you?
Yeah, it does. But I mean, like anything, right? I mean, we all put our hand on the stove one time and the scar might heal, but you don't forget, right? And it's like that with anything in our lives. It's typically the lessons that are painful, the ones that change us and mold us and shape us into becoming better, right? And it's like that in sports, and it's like that in any aspect of life. So you don't just hang it up, right? This thing is a marathon and not a sprint. And so you make mistakes, you own them. I see from time to time in the accounting and tax world, once in a while, you'll come across somebody who maybe doesn't subscribe to the same philosophies of truth and accountability and things like that. But in our office, we own it, right? If there's something, whether it's a small mistake or a big one, you just own it and you move forward. And thankfully, there haven't been a lot of them, certainly none like that before or since.
So going back to my question about Beaumont, why Beaumont? Why the Inland Empire? Why not Orange County? Why not LA? Why not another state?
Yeah, well, part of it's just because I live here, right? So I live in Cherryville. I grew up in Banning. I went to college out of state there, and then I settled in Beaumont and Banning. I married a girl from Yucaipa, so this is just home. This is our home.
Yeah.
And when we made a decision that we were going to start something, moving away from my dad's first tax season there, we decided we were going to start our own thing. Well, the natural thing is just start reaching out to the people that you know, networking. And we did a lot of free tax returns and tax returns for $10 and things like that for the first year or two, and said, listen, just give us a deal. Yeah, right. Where's that deal now? Right. But so we reached out to the people that we knew. And there are opportunities to purchase a practice, in Orange County or out of state or whatever. But for us, it was home. We knew it. Our first office was out of our house, out of our little apartment. We would have, friends and clients would come over and we'd do their tax return in the second bedroom there. And from there, we kind of moved over to a strip mall there in Yucaipa. And then we moved into the place that we're at now, which is a commercial office there.
Yeah, it's awesome.
In Beaumont.
From what you're thinking of your clientele, what's the biggest mistake that you see a business owner make when it comes to their finances or their taxes, especially when they're starting? And then maybe when they've been around for 10, 15 years, maybe a mistake they make in that.
Yeah, I would say like building a house, the biggest mistake that I see is that the groundwork is not there.
Okay.
So for example, the way that a business typically starts, it's not typical for somebody to just say, hey, listen, I'm just going to shop for a business and I'm going to go buy, a car wash or an auto detail. Some of them do. But most of them, they start with what they know, right? They have been doing it for a while. And a lot of them start with like side businesses. Hey, I'm working in a full-time employment position somewhere, but I'm going to start this little thing on the side. And then that thing on the side starts to take off because they're really good at it.
Right.
But because they're really good at that thing, that doesn't always mean that they're really good at the business organization aspect of it.
Right.
So the groundwork, right? Like building a house, half of building a house is under the dirt, right? I mean, it takes months to get the groundwork done, the grading and the foundations done. And then once that's done, then the house goes up very fast. Businesses are a lot the same way because sometimes the groundwork's not done. Perhaps the organization's not set up properly. They start off as a sole proprietor or as an LLC. And they start moving in a direction, but they haven't crossed the T's or dotted the I's. And so business structure's wrong. Separation of finances may not be pristine. Sometimes they'll get involved with a partner or whatever, and that contract isn't done right. And so now there's conflict there. And so I would say the biggest mistake is just the groundwork. So smart new businesses, they'll meet with their attorney or their accountant and say, hey, listen, what's the next step? Like in this process, what is my next step? And then that can be assessed and a game plan can be worked out. Then once the groundwork's there, then they can do what they do best, whatever that service or sales product is. They can do that, and because the groundwork is there and the right people are in the right spots, they can then thrive.
Well, I was just going to ask you. So where do you find those resources? Do you recommend so if you're a startup business, I mean, it probably doesn't even need to be a startup. Should they have an accountant? Should they have an attorney? Should they have a good insurance guy? Where do you think they should start?
I would say probably a good place to start is probably an accountant.
Okay.
And I'm not just saying that because that's where but I don't do legal services, but we have a lot of attorneys that we work with. But not everybody needs an attorney right off the bat. In fact, very, very few of them probably do. Small businesses. Obviously, if you're dealing with contracts and you're going to purchase a business, 100%.
You need an attorney.
But for the guy that we just discussed who's starting a side business and then that thing starts to take off, definitely have an accountant or a resource there, somebody who deals in business accounting where you can just go sit down with them. Most people that come into our offices, it's referral business or friends of friends, and they just say, hey, listen, can I come pick your brain for a little bit? And they come in and they've read everything that they could find on ChatGPT, and they've seen all the YouTube and the Instagram and the TikTok videos. Yep. I mean, there's a lot of information out there. And the truth is, a lot of it is really good information. It just doesn't apply to what they're doing.
That's the problem.
So they read this stuff and they're like, oh yeah, I read about this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, is that good information? It's like, well, it's good information, just not for you.
Yeah, right.
And by the way, you're missing this part of it. And so even if you have an accountant who's going to charge you a nominal fee to sit down and just pick their brain, start there and then you can get some good guidance. And typically that accountant is going to say something like, ooh, you probably need to talk to an insurance person, right? I mean, whether it's workers' comp or liability insurance or something like that. And by the way, here's their card. You can give them a call. You've been part of our network here for many years. And you've been a great resource to us. And I love it as an accountant and as a kind of a business guy to be able to tell my clients, hey, listen, I know you need insurance and I think there's an insurance for you. I don't know what that is, but call this guy.
Well, and it's the same thing going to the accountant. We know you need an accountant. But
sure.
I know nothing about it. Let me give you this guy. So
right.
Same sort of concept. What keeps you, as a business owner in the Inland Empire, what's something that you worry about? What's something that keeps you up at night that you're constantly just thinking about and worrying about?
So I think that has shifted, interestingly enough. So in the beginning, probably for the first maybe decade or so, the things that kept me up at night were work related, meaning like, did I miss anything on this client? Or did I give them the best advice? Did I mess up on this tax return? Is there something that's going to come back to haunt me later or my clients later?
Sure.
Like, did I do something or did I miss something? But I'll tell you, over the last maybe 10 to 15 years or so, it's shifted a little bit, the things that keep me up at night. And now they're more related to the client themselves. And what I fear the most is that somebody will leave our office and not feel like they've been taken care of. So like when we have So when we have staff meetings, I'll tell you the primary focus of those staff meetings, obviously there's critical things and systematic things that we need to deal with, right? I mean, procedural things. But mostly we talk about, listen, are there things that we can do here in this office so that when people walk in here, they know that they're in a different space where they're valued?
I love that.
And we run around all over, and it doesn't matter if it's accounting or law or insurance or Home Depot, right? I mean, we go out there and it just seems like there's this feeling of like, I'm going to be taken advantage of somewhere today, right? So I have to be on guard all the time. And we never want people to feel that way about us. We're normal people. We all have normal families. We all have to wake up in the morning and move forward. And so those are the things. Are there things that we're not doing at the office that we should be doing to make people feel that they are valued?
Yeah, I love that. And as a client, I've seen that as I walked into your office and I felt that. So I totally get what you were saying, and what you're saying is true. Absolutely true. What was your moment as a business owner when you felt like you made it? When every and maybe you're not there yet. I don't know. Every business owner, I remember mine. It was when I had the ability to tell a client that I'm not going to work with you anymore.
Yeah.
And that was liberating for me because at one point I needed it and then I didn't.
Yeah.
So what was your your make it moment?
It's an interesting question. So I think I probably would say I don't think that I've made it, right?
Sure.
And I think most people would probably feel that's what gets us up in the morning. But I think when we were able to delegate more to other people and start to hire people, I think that we got to a point where, I mean, somewhere in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, well, we've hired these people. And I guess if it doesn't work out or if things slow down, then you just start
doing it yourself.
You start laying people off. You
Right.
have to do it yourself. So I guess there's part of that. But I'll tell you, there's sort of this is going to sound a little odd because it has nothing to do with taxes or accounting or really even business. But because of my background and my culture and my faith beliefs, I truly believe, and my wife and family feel the same way, that we own nothing, like nothing that you see, whether it's the clothes on my back or the car or the office or the house that I live in, none of it belongs to me. It all belongs to God.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that's really what this podcast is aimed at, but that's just the truth. And that makes up who I am. So when I say
That's what it's aimed at.
So
Who you are.
And I think that's what the Inland Empire is.
Yeah.
I know that's part of what this is, but that's maybe one of the reasons why we've stayed here and we've been very comfortable here. So because nothing belongs to me, I don't think that I've made it. I wake up in the morning and I just say, dear Lord, do with me what you will today. And if it's required that everything is lost today and we start completely over, fine. We try to live our lives in a way that's something that we could pivot to and away from. So we don't hang our hats on anything or any idea of making it or being successful or whatever. We just wake up in the morning and we move forward and we work really, really hard and we are honest and we do the best we can.
I love it. And I know, and again, knowing who you are, your faith is interwoven in everything that you do.
It's not possible. And I think that's for the most people. And I think a lot of people that I've met over the many years of doing business and just living here, many people in the Inland Empire come from those roots where it's just part of the fabric of their makeup. I mean, culturally and
no matter what faith.
That's exactly right. It doesn't even matter. But the decisions that they make day to day have everything to do with their families and their higher beliefs.
That's what I love about the Inland Empire.
I do too.
And I totally agree. And that's why me and Teresa, we decided to stay here.
You bet it.
What's one thing that you are doing now that you never thought you would do as being a business owner?
I think when we started this thing, because I have this vision of how I want the day to run, how I want work to go, how I want people to feel when they're in our space. So I would always try to do things myself. And it was really, really hard to delegate to other people because I could do it better, right? And I think most business owners feel like they could and they know where they want to go with this thing. But now, because we've been prudent and wise in training the people that we bring on, we only bring on people that we feel would be a good fit in our space. I delegate a lot. And so I don't think that starting out this business, I thought I would delegate as much as I do, but because I totally trust the team, from the folks that answer the phone to the other tax preparers in the office to the folks that do, the mailing. Everybody knows their job and they do it very well and they get the vision and the culture of our office. So I have no problem delegating things to other people. And because we stand by what we do, if somebody in the office is faced with a task that they're not comfortable dealing with, they just tell me or they tell the client, you know what, this is about as far as I can go with it. We'll get this over to somebody who can. And so everybody just knows their role. And so I delegate a lot.
Well, that's awesome. I love that answer. So speaking of employees, what's your philosophy on hiring and finding good employees? I know it's a big struggle.
Yeah.
That's a big, not just in the Inland Empire. You can go across the country of finding good employees because especially if you're looking at the 18 to 30 year olds, they're different.
Sure.
They're different than what we grew up with.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily need to focus on them, but what's your philosophy on hiring and how do you find such good people?
So some of it just happens, right? I mean, it's need based. And so it's not like we go out and we just say, hey, listen, let's hire somebody. Usually it's, hey, listen, we need to hire somebody because it's expanding or whatever. And so when the need comes, then the feelers go out, right? We hit our knees and we pray, dear Lord, guide us today, right? But I'll tell you one funny one was about maybe 12 or 13 years ago, we got to a point where we needed to hire sort of a secondary office manager to help kind of move some of the tasks around. And so the feelers went out and we started opening up our eyes. We went on, you look on the websites and stuff like that, but the truth is not a lot of jobs are found or,
through Indeed
or
those
whatever.
Types of things, right?
It's all about who you know. So anyways, I'm working on a project at the house, right? We know we need to hire somebody to work in the office and kind of manage things. And I'm going in, I have a project that I'm building something in the backyard and I go into the Home Depot. And if you're anything like me, a project that requires one Home Depot trip really requires like 11 Home Depot trips, right? Because you get there and you forgot the box of screws or whatever.
Yep.
So as I'm checking out this gal at the check stand, she's just like super personable. And and of course, because I'm looking for somebody, I'm like, man, she's really nice. She's really like, engaging. She knows how to ask questions like, hey, what do you build in the backyard? But here's the thing. So then on my like 7th trip back, right, I go walking through the door and she goes, hey, Andrew, back again, right? And she remembered my name. And it's not like we had any like real intimate conversation. She just remembered from like the credit card or something. So anyways, I'm thinking, I'm going to say something to this cashier. So I go and I buy whatever it is that I buy. And as I'm walking and I just look at her and I'm like, listen, this is going to be a super weird question, but do you like your job here? Is there any possibility that you are looking for a change? And she was, it was like the perfect answer. She was like, I love my job here. I love the people.
That's what you want her to say.
Which is kind of what you want her. You really don't want her to say, I hate my job because then you know as the next employer, like, right, she's that girl.
Yep.
So she said it exactly right. And I said, well, listen, if you're ever thinking about a change, I think you'd be a great fit at my office. And I just gave her my business card and that was it, right? We walked out. Before I had gotten to work on Monday, there was a voicemail or whatever. And she had reached out and said, hey, listen, I talked to my husband. We'd love to chat about what that would look like. And she was a perfect fit. And she's still here today. She's amazing. Yeah, if you walk in the front door, if you call the office, she's probably going to be one that answers the phone.
So to answer that, my question is that you go to Home Depot.
Go to Home Depot.
That's where we're looking for.
You can do it.
Employees.
They can help, right? That's exactly right. They can help. You find it. They'll supply you with everything.
That's amazing. It doesn't surprise me that you found somebody that way, just knowing, again, who you are.
Sure.
My dad, it's a story about my dad. I remember when I was getting ready for my mission, we were at a Men's Warehouse. And the guy that was putting my suits together, and my dad just loved this guy and offered him a job on the spot.
Isn't that something?
Well, you just never know.
You never know.
You never know as the business owner, but also as the employee.
That's right.
You never know, who's going to, come through that door, and you never know who's watching you. I tell my kids this all the time. You never know who's watching you, and, making sure that you're putting yourself in a position for it's a positive experience. Again, you never know. You never know who you're going to influence.
I think that those are very wise words. Doors are constantly opening and closing. Yeah. And if you just do what's right, you're going to be guided down a path that leads you to good things.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, we'll talk about the Inland Empire real quick. We've talked about it a little bit already. Where do you see the benefits of having a business in the Inland Empire and maybe some of the struggles that maybe we would face as opposed to somebody in Orange County or LA County?
Yeah, but we actually do have a lot of clients from Orange County.
Sure.
And so, we see some of what they do. It's a higher overhead, right?
Okay.
But there is a difference in feel to people, right? Just a difference in focus, maybe. Inland Empire, you hate to brush these strokes very generally, but for the most part, the people here are just very hardworking, salt of the earth. They get it, right? You can look at them and have a conversation. Their BS meters are usually pretty set to high, yes, so they know.
They can read it.
That's exactly right. And so if you're trying to sell a bill of goods, right, they're gonna know.
Right.
And so you have to be authentic. And so as opposed to the Orange County people are fantastic, right? In fact,
it's just different.
It's just different, right? It's just a different culture.
Right.
So there are some businesses that we know that set up shop in Orange County because they're looking for a certain clientele that would only be shopping in Orange County.
Right.
I think once upon a time, we actually had somebody call our office and they had asked for a price quote on something, right? A corporate tax return or whatever. And it was significantly less expensive than what they had been paying in Orange County. They had moved out here or whatever. And to them, they actually said, thank you for the quote. We'll stick with
It almost cheapened it to them, didn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It almost to them, they were looking for something that they perceived you had to pay for.
Right.
And so I think Orange County has a place in that market. It's not our focus, but we have a lot of clients in Orange County.
Well, yeah, not to alienate our LA
Yeah.
and Orange County clients because we're in the same
Sure.
boat. But we made the conscious decision to open up our business in the Inland Empire just simply because we love the people here.
Yeah.
And perhaps it's a little bit more affordable.
Yeah.
But the people and the culture, and we saw a need.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of accountants, but there's also a need for good accountants in this area. I know I have business owner clients that struggle to find good accountants, and they feel they have to go to Orange County or LA to one of the big firms. And there's plenty around here. There's some good ones, just like yours.
I served on a board of directors one time for a hospital, and when we were hiring auditors and things like that, they had some specific criteria that they wanted to meet. And I actually knew accountants that could do it for significantly cheaper accounting firms.
Sure.
But the hospital wasn't interested necessarily in that. They wanted it to be a certain...
Had to be a name.
It had to be a name.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's all good. I've never owned a business in Orange County. I'm certain that if we owned it, we would find that the people there are exactly the same as they are here. Family focused and faith filled.
Okay. So fast forward 10 years.
Yep.
They're writing a movie about you and your life as a tax guy and as a family man. How would you want that movie to end? How would you, as the credits roll, how would you want that to, what would be the perfect ending for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I don't foresee a time where I'm not going to be working there, but
Okay. So it doesn't end.
it doesn't end, right? I mean, because it's people.
Sure.
And so, but I definitely see myself taking a step back. So we've kind of already started moving that ball forward a little bit. Last year, we hired another enrolled agent.
Cool.
Who he's just getting his feet wet, but we're training him right. And so he gets it. He's a local guy as well. In fact, he's the son-in-law of one of my best friends. He married his daughter. And so when he was going through school and getting his feet wet and learning about accounting and tax and things like that, he started to look for maybe where he was going to land after college. And so we had some conversations with him. And so a couple of years ago, we said, hey, listen, why don't you give us a try? And so he's now been there for about a year and he's just loving it. So the plan is for either him or somebody like him to maybe take it over, because we always want it to be a place where people can go to find solutions and things like that.
Kids don't have any plans to become accountants like their dad?
I don't know. I mean, I never had the plan to become an accountant until 21, right? So I don't know. I mean, they work at the office from time to time doing, menial tasks and things like that, but it's not.
No, this is boring. I want to go catch bad guys.
Have you ever known a kid to say, like, when I grow up, I want to be an actuary or an accountant or something like that?
It's the same thing with insurance. Who grows up to want to be an insurance agent?
That's right. Although accounting is probably one of the more stable professions. You can find yourself anywhere in the world doing that.
Well, and I've never met, I don't want to say poor, but I've never said an accountant that has been doing it for 10 plus years that is struggling.
Yeah.
They all seem to do very well. They understand money, obviously, and there's just such a need. I mean, it's such a recession-proof life work job because you always need accountants. You always need them. That's not something that AI is going to be able to do, because you need to be able to pick up the phone and talk to somebody like Andy Gardner for some advice on a purchase or on what do I need to do at the end of the year. So
there's definitely a role for AI, and we can kind of see the writing on the wall there. But yeah, you're right. I'll tell you, and it's not all boring stuff. So can I share just a quick story with you?
Please.
So some of the fun things, right? So every now and again, my kids will just think I have the most boring job in the world, right? Because I sit at a desk all day.
I get it too.
So about a year ago or so we had a client who showed up at our office, and he was just distraught, right, about some of the tax problems that he was having, and his wife was ill at the time. And anyway, so he needed help, right? And so he owed hundreds of thousands of dollars to the IRS and to the franchise tax board. But his issue was not, I don't want want to pay. I mean, I want to get this resolved, right? Like if he was trying to do the right thing. So I'm like, well, let's assess your assets here. Let's see if we can figure this out. And so he tells me, he says, I've got a lot of money in a safe deposit box there at the local bank. And I'm like, okay, well, let's use that. He goes, I can't get access to it. He goes, what the franchise tax board, they've seized and frozen my assets. So it was interesting. So for him, it took a lot of work to get the franchise tax board, because even the franchise tax board agents had never heard of this particular situation. A guy wanting to pay his taxes, but couldn't because he has the money, he can't get to it, right? So there's a long drawn out process. So at the end of this, it took several months to coordinate this, but because you're dealing with cash, there has to be law enforcement involved, right? So this is a little bank in Calamasa, California, where there's a safe deposit box with a bunch of money in it, and they coordinated. So this is California Highway Patrol is the enforcement agency. So they sent like the most macho guys ever, right? There's like 6 of these guys, and I mean, they got the handlebar mustaches, they're ripped, and so I've got 6 of these guys here. I got a guy who's flown down from Sacramento, this agent from the franchise tax board. My client, they didn't want him to be there because most of the time clients just make a mess of things, right? And so I told him, I was like, listen, you don't have to be there. I'll just be there to represent you. He goes, no, I want to be there.
Oh, no.
So it's him, it's me. And so we go rolling in there, right? And everybody in the bank is just like looking at us because they have no idea why you've got these dudes in suits that are there, and you've got these law enforcement guys, and everyone's going in the back here, and you've got these bank workers, and they've had to get 3 or 4 managers involved in this thing. And then we just sat there for like 2 hours while they counted all this cash, and then they took it with them when they left.
Dude, that's funny.
And so a lot of fun, right? So once in a while you have these brushes with the IRS or the franchise tax board and criminal divisions and things like that. But for the most part, it's all pretty mundane.
Well, that's awesome. Andy, that's all I got. I really appreciate you coming on. You've been a big influence in my life and my family's life, and I appreciate it. But I appreciate you coming on and learning a little bit more about you.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you.
Yep.